The night my mother told me I wasn't going to Italy, she didn't raise her voice. That's what still chills me. No screaming. No slammed doors. Just her smoothing the tablecloth with both hands and saying very calmly, "You're not leaving, Eliza." Like she was telling me the weather had changed. I was 31 years old. 31. I had saved $47,000. I had a one-way ticket to Bologna. I know I used to say Bologna. And my college friends never let me live it down, haha. I had an acceptance letter to a culinary science program I had dreamed about since I was a teenager, watching PB's cooking shows at midnight with the volume low so my parents wouldn't hear. My bags were packed. My flight was in 11 hours, and my passport was gone. If you've ever felt your stomach drop so fast, it's like you missed a step in the dark. You know what I felt standing there in my childhood kitchen in Ridgemont, Ohio. Population 4,800. One blinking traffic light. One high school. One family restaurant with our name painted on the front in faded red letters. Corbin's Kitchen. My grandfather built it in 1986. Red brick. Wooden sign. A brass bell that jingled every time someone came in, the kind of sound that sticks in your bones. I grew up with that bell. It was the soundtrack of my life. By 12, I was washing dishes on a milk crate because I was too short to reach the sink comfortably. By 14, I could carry 4 plates at once without tipping gravy onto anyone's lap. By 18, I was balancing the books on Sundays after church, while my friends were posting photos from campus parties. I told myself it was temporary, just until I graduated. Just until things stabilized. Just until Dad figured out the new supplier situation. Just until Mom felt less overwhelmed. Just until. You know how that goes. The dream of Italy didn't explode into my life in one big cinematic moment. It was slow, quiet, a cookbook borrowed from the library, a YouTube video, about fermentation science. An article about the University of Bologna's culinary research program, the oldest university in the Western world, by the way. Food chemistry. Traditional pasta methods, the science behind gluten development. I mean, come on, that's my love language. I gave myself 3 years to save, 3 years of saying no. No vacations, no new car, no takeout. I took on freelance bookkeeping gigs after my day job at Morris & Lyall, the accounting firm 20 minutes east of town. I'd sit at my little desk with a mug of stale coffee and reconcile ledgers until midnight. When my savings hit $47,000, I cried in my car in the bank parking lot. Not dramatic sobbing, just quiet tears and this whisper in my head. "You did it!" I told my family 2 months before departure. Silence. Not the stunned, proud kind. The thick kind. My mom picked at a loose thread on the tablecloth. My dad stared at the salt shaker like it held the secrets of the universe. Gwen, my younger sisteress, curled on her phone. "That's far," Mom finally said. "It's 18 months, I replied gently. "Maybe 2 years if I stay for research." "And the restaurant?" Dad asked. I smiled. "It'll still be here. I should have known then." The night before my flight, I set my passport on the nightstand. I remember smoothing my hand over the navy cover, tracing the gold eagle. I set my alarm for 3:45 a.m. At 9 p.m., Mom called me back downstairs. She was sitting at the table, hands flat against the wood. Dad stood behind her. Gwen was on the couch, TV muted. "You're not leaving," Mom said. I actually laughed. I thought she was joking. "Mom, my flight, who will cook and clean?" she interrupted. I blinked. "Excuse me? Your sister needs help with the kids. Your father can't run the kitchen alone. You know that." I turned to Dad. He wouldn't look at me. "My passport," I said slowly. "Where is it?" "It's safe," Mom replied. "You don't need it." I wish I could tell you I shout. That I threw something, that I stormed out and demanded it back. I didn't. I went upstairs. I sat on my bed in the dark. I stared at the empty spot on my nightstand. At 6:14 a.m., my flight left Columbus without me. At 6:14 a.m., my father called the bank and froze my savings account. He was still a co-signer from when I opened it at 17. I had never removed him. Why would I? He was my dad. By 8 a.m., I was standing in the kitchen pouring coffee I couldn't drink, staring at a notification on my phone. Account access restricted. Something inside me didn't break. It sharpened. I didn't speak to them for 3 days. Not one word. Not at breakfast. Not at dinner. I performed normally like it was a job. On the third night, I called Nathan. Nathan Webb, law school. Consumer fraud attorney. Calm voice. Always slightly amused. Like nothing in the world surprised him anymore. "Have you checked your credit report recently?" he asked. I hadn't. I pulled it up that night. Look light from my laptop glowing in my dark bedroom. 3 loans I never applied for. A business line of credit for Corbin's Kitchen. A personal loan from First Regional Bank. A supplier financing agreement. Total $92,000, all in my name. My credit score had dropped from 782 to 518. I stared at the screen so long my eyes burned. It wasn't just numbers, it was years of discipline, years of careful living, and someone my father had used my signature like it was a spare key. Then I checked the tax transcripts. They had claimed me as a dependent for 5 years. 5. Even while I filed independently. Even while I paid my own health insurance and car insurance and contributed to household groceries. It felt surgical, not impulsive, not desperate in a one-time way. Methodical. Nathan didn't gasp when I sent him the screenshots. He just said, very evenly, "This is identity theft, Eliza." I drove to his office that Saturday. 2 hours of flat farmland and radio silence. We laid everything out on his desk like evidence in a crime show. "What do you want?" he asked me. That question. Oh my gosh. No one in my family had asked me what I wanted in years. "I want my name back," I said. And here's where people expect the rage montage, the revenge plotting with dramatic music. It wasn't like that. It was forms, reports, documentation, police statements, IRS filings, disputes, credit freezes, methodical, precise, almost boring if it weren't my entire life on the line. I rebooked my flight, April 20th, one day after the restaurant's 40th anniversary party. Yes, that was intentional. You see, Mom was planning this big celebration. Yellow daisies, a banner across the porch. 40 years of family and sacrifice. Sacrifice. That word again. She assigned me the bookkeeping display table. Old photos. Revenue charts. "You're so good with numbers," she said sweetly. "You'll make us look professional." Dad rehearsed a speech in the bathroom every night. I could hear him. Through the wall. Family means putting each other first. Gwen dropped her kids off more often. "You're staying anyway," she said with a shrug. "Might as well be useful." One afternoon, Lila, 5 years old, all curls and glitter sneakers, looked at me in the backseat of my car and said, "Mommy says you're going to live at the restaurant forever because you don't have your own family." That one stung. I didn't cry. I just nodded and said, "That's interesting, baby," because by then I knew something they didn't. I had filed everything, the FTC report, the IRS complaint, the loan disputes, a demand letter for restitution. Nathan had arranged for a process server. April 19th, 7:30 p.m. The party was packed. 80-plus people crammed into a building meant for 50. String lights glowing. Lasagna trays steaming. I made them myself. Perfect layers. Perfect bechamel. Because I don't do anything halfway. Dad stood up with the microphone around 7:15. "Corbin's Kitchen is more than a restaurant," he said, voice trembling. "It's a family, and family means sacrifice." He looked right at me. At 7:30 the door opened. Gray sport coat, leather folder. "Mr. Raymond Corbin?" The room quieted like someone had sucked the air out. "You've been served." Mom grabbed the microphone. "After everything we've done for you, Eliza." I didn't shout. I didn't cry. "Dad forged my signature on 3 loans," I said clearly. "They claimed me on their taxes for 5 years. They froze my savings account the morning of my flight. You could hear the cooler humming behind the bar. Mom's mascara started to run. "We sacrificed everything." "I know," I said. "And you decided I should too." Dad didn't deny it. He just sagged. Like a building with its supports kicked. I walked behind the bar. I took off my apron, folded it neatly, set it down. "You asked who would cook and clean," I said to my mother. "Not me." When she shouted, "If you walk out that door, don't come back," I didn't turn around. "That's the plan," I replied. Outside, the air smelled like cut grass and rain. I got into the car Nathan had arranged. And yes, a county health inspector's vehicle pulled in as we drove away. I had filed a complaint weeks earlier because my forged signature was tied to the building lease. That wasn't revenge. That was self-protection. 6 months later, Corbin's Kitchen closed. Health violations, loan defaults, IRS audit. Dad pleaded guilty to bank fraud. Probation, restitution. Mom got a job at Walmart, first one in nearly 4 decades. Gwen found part-time daycare work. Turns out, when I wasn't there to absorb everything, reality showed up fast. And me? I was in Bologna, standing in a sunlit kitchen with flour on my hands and Italian chatter bouncing off tiled walls, learning the science behind the stretch of dough under my palms. One night after class, I sat by my dorm window with my new passport on the desk. 2 stamps already. No bent C. Orners. I thought about Grandpa Frank. about something he told me when I was 10, standing on a step stool stirring sauce. Don't cook for free, Eliza. I finally understood. I didn't leave because I stopped loving them. I left because love is not labor. Love is not obligation disguised as destiny. Love does not steal your name and call it sacrifice. If any part of this feels familiar, if you've ever been told your loyalty is owed, your dreams are selfish, your boundaries are betrayal, please hear me. You are allowed to leave. You are allowed to choose yourself. And if this story resonated with you, if it lit even a tiny spark in your chest, subscribe to Her Untold Revenge. Share this with someone who needs the reminder that their worth is not measured in what they provide. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do isn't to fight, it's to walk out the door and never look back.